Well, we're back. Yay! At least now we know
Yay!
we're streaming live because you know how it is. Hey, good morning, Cindy. I know you're here. Hey, Michael. I know you're here also. Just want to say good morning to all of you. For some of you who have been watching us on this live content bootcamp show, we just want to say welcome to the broadcast. And in case we a little bit chatty, just jump into the live comment there too, so we can be chatty with you too. Say hello, so we can say hello to you. Now, Miss Julie, we missed you last week. I know you have a lot to say this week. I can't wait to hear what you have to share. What are we talking about today?
Hey, I know. So, hi everybody. I missed everyone. It's a little bit of a crazy time of year for me, and I'm really excited about it. But last week I don't even remember last week. So for whatever reason, I couldn't make it, and I apologize. But today we're going to talk about storytelling, and storytelling is something that I personally love. When I speak, I speak in a very story format, very anecdotal, and I love to write, so that's in my heart as well. But I think when I relate it to business, and when I think about as a speaker, sometimes in life, if you've ever been through anything traumatic or a big change and either taken part in therapy or kind of like therapied yourself online through like too many memes or whatever,
Yep.
they'll say, don't get caught in your story and don't get stuck in your story and things like that. And I know for me a couple years ago that was confusing because my story is very important to me, but I don't relive it every day and I don't get stuck in it. So I'm able to now use my story to help others and inspire others and to help them think about their own story as it relates to their speaking topics or their business or their branding. So the first thing I want to talk about today a little bit was storytelling doesn't mean to be like stuck in a traumatic experience or to be stuck at a past point in time. To me, real authentic storytelling moves not only the audience forward in their own thinking, but helps move the speaker forward every time they share a piece of a story. And I know for me, my stories change a little bit over time, not in that they're not true, but the pieces of them that apply to whoever I'm speaking about change over time. And so I had written a few notes down. I was actually prepared.
Because our stories do change, because as we grow, our stories change, and I love that you mentioned that. Hi, Tish, good morning. Hi, Barb, good morning.
Because I think what happens, Zeph, is, you have your life and something happens to you in it. And then hopefully you grow, and growing doesn't erase what happened to you, but every little piece of growth changes how you see that, like the prism and how you see what happened to you.
Yep.
Is always evolving. And that's what, to me, makes storytelling so powerful from a speaker standpoint or from a brand standpoint, a brand voice standpoint, because it really gives you a way to hook in to the psyche and the experiences of thousands and thousands of people that you've never actually met, but who may have had some kind of similar experience, and either they saw it differently or they saw it the same, but at least it gives you common ground.
Yes. And Cindy says, very true. And I think one of the reasons why Julie and I wanted to talk about the storytelling part, because part and parcel of going live, and we talked about this in the post creating this video broadcast, we said about, we would like to talk about the common obstacles why people, when going live, whether it's a brand, personal brand, or a business, right? We kind of have to share our stories eventually, and a lot of this, and it was just last week, I was talking to my girlfriend who actually was thinking about incorporating her kids, her boys, in her brand. And she loves to tell stories. And that's why I say, we probably need to tell this, because as speakers and presenters, I think the old school, I may be wrong. So if you guys are watching and you happen to be a speaker or presenter, the old school people always say, be careful. You don't want to share too much
Right.
because,
Right.
you don't want to tell so much of your personal life. But I feel that limits our authenticity and what you talk about a lot, Julie, because, how can we be authentic and real if we're not sharing some of our personal stories that make up
Right.
who we are? And I love that you take this to the videos, the live broadcast, and you go like, hi, Cara is doing this. These are
Yeah.
my girls. And
Oh
I
yeah,
love
she's
that.
always behind me. Yeah.
No, she's
So I remember a couple years ago, I spoke briefly at a women's networking event. I don't remember truthfully if I had won like the lotto that evening. I don't know why I was speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot. But for me, one of the things that when I do speak to women about, so what I tend to speak about are fresh starts.
Right.
I talk about starting over, not only from a personal point of view through my divorce and so forth, but fresh starts in your career, fresh starts as an entrepreneur, fresh starts in how you view yourself. And that's really something that means a lot to me. So I was speaking to this group of women, and one of the stories I share, and I'm not going to share it here because it's a little bit long, but one of the stories I do share is about my younger sister, and she passed away in 1997. Now, Zeph knows because she follows me on Facebook and she's my friend. Like, it's been 20 years and I still, like, the other day was like, we're crying about it all day. But
because it
that's
comes and hits you when
Yeah.
you're, certain times. Yeah.
Yeah, especially for some, it has to do with the seasons changing because I'm always like, oh, summer was so fun when she was around. But for me, like, especially with so much time, like, that's just a part of my life and that's a part of my story. So I told this story to these women, and the next day one of the women called me and said, I think that what you should be doing is speaking more, and what you should be leading with is the tragedy of your life and how dark your life is. And I was really struck by that because I don't feel like a tragic figure and I don't feel like a dark figure, but it taught me that others in the audience who haven't had those experiences, my experiences were so deep and raw and vulnerable that I almost made the mistake of incorrectly niching myself as a tragic figure. That's the last thing I want to do. So I think what it taught me from a storytelling standpoint and an authenticity standpoint is to share smaller pieces of it and to recognize that my story is my own and I've had decades to sit with it and the audience is getting it for the very first time. So whatever your story is, whether it's humorous, whether it's tragic, whether it's about overcoming a health issue, whatever it is, you have to remember that smaller pieces are just as powerful as the whole. And when you kind of release it in smaller little snippets, it's not so much that you want to control it and that it's not real anymore, but you can kind of control more accurately how the audience perceives you. Because chances are, maybe I'm wrong, but like, I would think most people wouldn't want to be seen as a tragic figure in business or in life,
But you know what? Let me kind of throw this to our audience out there where what you just left us there, Julie. And I just want to say good morning to Donna Robinson French, who's just joining us right now on the live broadcast. Hi, Donna. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. And Barb Tomlin says, excellent tip, Julie. So I'm going to put that up on the screen so everybody can see that. Barb says, excellent tip, Julie. So here's what I'm thinking about. You talk about the traumatic experience, and sometimes we're asking ourselves, why do we want to share this? Because some people who may still stay in the traditional aspect, because this, this broadcast, we're catering it towards the speakers and presenters. Why we're talking about this, I think because we have to break away from the old traditions, which, we're like, oh, we don't want to say too much. Listen, I mean, the traumas are the ones that make us real, right? Because it's not about sharing a bad experience, but it's how we have responded to the experience. I'm having goosies. Now you can hashtag that, Zap Goosies. And Barb is saying right here, she says, knowing when to shut up is an art. I love that.
Yes. So I'm learning that art. Yes.
Yes,
I learned
excellent.
that
I love that.
taught me that.
And why I'm saying this is, right, folks, because I have been around speakers and presenters who are a little bit traditional and just want to be like all business. But you know what? People want to hear as a business owner, as a speaker presenter, I am sure you have gone through some challenges in your life, and how you respond to those challenges are worth a story. Whether it's in front of a camera, in front of people, it's worth a story. And I just wanted to share this, talk about traumatic. When I shared my experience going through cancer, and people look like, why are you smiling, Zaf? You're riding on this, on the wheelchair. You have your, what you call it, you're on crutches. Why are you sharing? Like, aren't you like shy about it? I'm like, it's okay, because this is how, I respond to this trauma, this challenge. And I think as a business owner, speaker, presenter, we all on the other side of that want to hear, what was it that Julie went through that I could probably learn from Julie's experience, right? How Julie tackled it is probably something I would love to do. And I love that speakers and presenters share that personal story, because we see the challenges that they had to go through. Then we can also learn from that experience, and maybe we find a way to see that how they handle and respond to that challenge is how we want to respond. And that applies to business. And I love that you shared that.
I think that the other, my other little notes that I have here, when you're speaking and as a speaker, if you can get to a comfortable place where you can really see your entire session as a story, because if you can see it as a story, then there are characters. And what's interesting to me when I speak is I'm sort of a narrator in my role. And one of the characters is my audience, my living, breathing audience in front of me. Mm-hmm. And so it gives me, at least, and I think others, when you can embrace it, you're not reading your slides anymore. Mm-hmm. You're not afraid of going live because it's not scripted anymore. Because if anybody knows your story, it's you. So it gives a level of freedom, at least to me, and a confidence. The other thing I wrote here, though, was, you want to make sure you're telling your own story in support of whatever your goal is, your mission, your topic that you're sharing that day, not someone else's story. It's not a chance to, telling someone else's story is basically gossiping,
Yep.
Keep it.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah. Your experiences and your insights to what you're speaking about, even if it's your experience experiencing someone else. Mm-hmm. You still want to share your own viewpoints and thoughts in support of whatever your speaker session's about or whatever your live broadcast series is about. For me, storytelling, again, as a writer, I use a lot of details. I want to transport my audience to wherever I am. Mm-hmm. Because my goal always when I speak is to bring about emotion. And I remember thinking a couple years ago when I finally started doing some speaking again, I had a story in mind, a personal story. And I said, if I do this right, they'll either cry and then laugh, or if I do it wrong, it'll be like a complete failure. It was such a sensitive subject that I was sharing. Mm-hmm. And when I got it to go across and I got these women to cry and then immediately laugh, I knew that I was strong enough to share this very, very difficult story in a way that not only I could handle personally, but that could move forward my message of authenticity in business and moving forward your business through adversity and different things that happen in your life.
Yep.
I can't see any comments, so I don't know if there are any comments. I'm like a little box today. I don't know how to set this up.
We're not setting out. Nobody's commenting right now. I think everyone is probably just listening to what you have to share. Okay. So let me just do a quick shout out and say to everyone who's watching, whether you're watching with us here live on the broadcast, if you're watching here live on the broadcast, I know sometimes we just love to listen like a podcast, right? But if you're here, we would love to engage and hear what you have to say, or you have to comment to what we're sharing here. That's how we engage on a live broadcast. And if you're watching this on replay, be sure to still leave a question or a comment so that we can always come back and have a conversation. And Tisha saying, listening well. Yes, you are. You're doing a great job. And if you really know, especially a speaker, a presenter who could probably benefit from the content that we're sharing here on this live broadcast, please, please, please share this out. Invite them to the live broadcast. All right. And if you don't already know, like you're probably wondering, okay, why is Zaf and Julie right here doing this broadcast? For some of you, you don't already know that we may actually be doing a boot camp next month. It's actually a local boot camp, but we wanted to just come on weekly to get people, to kind of get familiarized with the topics that we present, our style, because sometimes going into a training seminar or workshop, it can be a little bit jarring because you're like, oh, we don't know how Julie teaches or Zeph teaches. I don't know if I'm going to get goosies or learn from this. So we wanted to do this broadcast and kind of share this information with everybody. So in case you're wondering what it is, this is what we're doing for next month right here in Connecticut. But that doesn't mean you cannot benefit. You, our live viewers, cannot benefit from the content that we do on in our weekly live broadcast. Julie, let me take us back to this conversation to talking about, I just saw Donna saying this. So let me just put this up on screen. So Donna French is saying, she says, taking your audience on a journey and bringing emotion. Great. Absolutely. And I think speakers and presenters, we kind of need to learn that some, great speakers in the past are very limited. They limit themselves to just, hey, I'm just going to be all this is like, I'm just going to be like all about the content that I'm teaching. But there's no relatability, right, Julie? And you talk a lot about this, and that's part and parcels of what we want to talk about today, relatability. Because one of the challenges of going live like this, me and Julie live, you're like, how do we relate to our audience? Like, hello, how can we be relatable? I don't know what you're talking about, Zaf. I don't know. I just don't know, because it's an obstacle of relating to my audience when I go live. So I'm going to let Julie do this because she does this very well when she goes live. She doesn't know it, but she relates to her audience very well. So Julie, let's just talk about relatability even when we're doing live, because it can be done.
Right. So I think, again, for me, I speak and write primarily what I thought originally with my blog, Divorce Glow, for example. I assumed my audience was like me. I'm 40. I have 3 kids. I'm divorced. I'm female. And I thought that's who is going to relate to me. And I think in the beginning, before I was comfortable enough and really truly authentic, I had that audience in mind. And I thought, this content will be helpful for a woman in this box.
Yep. What
happened was, I don't swear on this because Steph is more of a lady than I am. I have a delay because
Zeph just matches it with her laughter.
So that's instead of like a beep, it's just like a pause while my brain skips over the swears, because it's just like part of my vocabulary. So what happened was I realized at one point, like, forget it. I'm just going to say and do what I observed or what I thought and what I want to share. And interestingly enough, my audience in terms of viewers and those who would write directly to me or who would comment on my blog shifted to many more men than I ever expected. And they often will write to me and say, is there anything out there like you for me as a man? Because your site very clearly feels feminine, or your writing, you wrote about the woman who did X, Y, and Z, but I'm the man and it happened to me and I really relate to this. Or I'm the man and I take care of my kids for whatever reason through the divorce. Right. And so when I kind of let the barriers down and all I know is my audience now is whoever needs me.
Right.
And once I got that in my head, my audience will find me through these videos and they will find me through my essays and they find me. I happen to have more clients in one shot right now from a real estate business standpoint than I've ever had. And they're all amazing. Yep. And if I were to make a chart, they're like made for me, like the best clients ever, because one way or another, they found me through an authentic channel. And whether they're male or female, young or old, married, divorced, whatever, there's like a common ground of just like a belief system that they all have that makes my business now more enjoyable than it's ever been. And so going live to me from a storytelling standpoint, for someone who is going to say to me, I'm a speaker, I want to be a speaker, I want to go live, this is my story. Yeah. I think my audience is X. I would say to them, forget about who your audience is, really, because your audience is whoever needs the message in your story. Boom. And they may look like people you never, ever expected. It might be, I had a gentleman come to me after speaking once in his 80s. and give me a hug with tears in his eyes and say, I've been coming to these luncheons since I was 25 years old.
Yep.
I'm coming for 60 years. And I've never seen a presentation like yours. You have changed my whole outlook. I can't thank you enough. And hugging me and crying.
I thought
that he's like in my box, but then I've said, screw it, like no more boxes.
Absolutely.
Like, so.
I love that you mentioned that, and I'm going to segue a little bit after I read Donna's comment here, and she says spot on. So here's one of the things that I think what you touched on was really, really spot on, just like Donna said, is this. Think about this, right? So everybody, we have so many people doing the same things that we do, right? Part and parcel of going live, and this is why I love telling a story on a live broadcast. One, Julie, you mentioned already, your audience is pretty much whoever needs you. Absolutely right, because the big word that actually complements to what you just said, and I teach this, and this is what you will actually get at the content bootcamp. Doesn't matter at the bootcamp or actually on my live broadcast, teaching about live broadcasting, is this. We have so many other people who do the things that we do. Why would I want to work with Julie? Why would I want to work or team up with Donna? Why would I want to work with Zeph? Showing up on a live broadcast is so much easier in like, you got to travel. I'm not saying, this is the only thing. I'm just saying as supplementary, you can go live, tell your story and let people get to know you. Number one, to pre-qualify you if they want to work with you. Duh, right? Because, right, sometimes Julie, mom of 3 girls, right? And maybe she would inspire another mom who's probably sitting around and like uninspired, and Julie goes live and Julie talks about, you gotta tell your story, because people gotta relate with you, and you're a business owner because I went through the same thing. You're a mom entrepreneur. You're gonna go through the same thing, but it's okay because I did it and I'm gonna be blah, blah, blah. People will use the live broadcast as a tool to pre-qualify to work with you. And that is like, I'm getting goosies because this is what I talk about a lot about going live. I don't care if you share your face or put makeup on a live broadcast, whatever your brand is, but share your story, have a voice, because before you know it, you'll have somebody calling you or messaging you in your inbox and go like, you know what? I went through the same challenges you did, and I love how you responded to those challenges. Now that person has pre-qualified you and go like, hey, Julie, I heard you have a listing in Monroe, Connecticut. I love that house. I would love to work with you. Do you know how powerful that is? Boom, mic drop.
It really is. I think for me, so, at the end of the day, I'm in sales. My primary income, my income is as a realtor. What I do differently and what my tagline is, I manage the transition, not just the transaction. Mm-hmm. So to do that, you have to have a personal relationship. It doesn't have to be, I don't want to be invited to your barbecue and I don't expect to be like sitting around with you at Christmas. You can if you want, but
I love the way she creates that situation, let us like visually see it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like, you don't have to come out and adopt me. But I want to know more. I want to know the reason behind the transaction, because that's where I can better understand what is your motivation? Where do we price it? What is the time frame? What support system do you need? I have a huge network of people, yep. Attorneys, accountants, psychologists, whatever, through affiliations with National Association of Divorce Professionals, affiliations with other groups. So if I genuinely care for my clients and they can see me online in a live video and know that that is true all the time, yep. Then they'll come to me with more of their issues and I become a resource for them. A perfect example. Here's a story. Perfect example. Last year I had a listing. It was overpriced. It was not selling well. It wasn't showing well. The couple had a job transfer. One part of the couple was already living across the country for 8 months while the other part stayed here to try to sell the house. And ultimately it expired, but I stayed in touch with them. Mm-hmm. And then this spring I said, what are you thinking of doing about the house? Mm. And she said, it's a miracle. He got his old job back He's coming back next week and he'll be working 20 minutes from the house. We don't need to sell anymore. To me, that's amazing. Like,
Yep.
to me, that's a home run. That's meant to be, because that solved their problem. Their problem was, we just want to be back together. That was, how do we get ourselves back together? Well, they figured, we'll sell the house and accomplish that. But the house wasn't moving. So plan B, well, I'll change my job and career again and accomplish that. And I genuinely am happy for them. It's not just about making a sale. It's about understanding and staying in touch and helping them see through the other options that can come up their way.
Right.
And a lot of times it does result in a transaction that frees up one or both people to go on and do whatever it is they're hoping to do in a new chapter in life. The fresh start component plays a big part of that.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's where business referrals come from. That's
True.
where women's groups, local networking groups, if they need someone to speak and they say, oh, I hear you talk about fresh starts. I hear you talk about real estate and divorce. I hear you talk about, career changes or mindset and goal setting. Those are all things that, there's a story in every one of us that can support that and help move someone else forward.
So we have a few minutes here, folks, and I just want to share, if you're wondering why in the world is Zeph and Julie doing this weekly live broadcast. So anyone who is in Connecticut or even in the tri-state area, one of the things Julie and I decided to do was team up together. We're going to collaborate because we said this is what we do well. And I know from a writing, from a framework of, storytelling, what you need to come up with as far as your branding, Julie's the gal, and I do everything else with the live content. We both have teamed up, and if you're a speaker or presenter who probably will do a lot of public speaking, or you have to present in front of people, and you're wondering, like, how can I get more reach? How can I create authority or maybe get more clients using live video? That's why we both have teamed up. We're putting together, or we're actually organizing this boot camp called Live Content Strategies Bootcamp for Speakers and Presenters on May 11th in Orange, Connecticut. The reason why we're doing this is I personally have had people when I go out and network is, networking in person is awesome. I mean, disclaimer, I love that, but it takes a lot of time. One of the most challenging thing is to go to, to have a 4-hour calendar block on my calendar and go like, okay, I met like probably 2 people. Oh, maybe in my head. You know how that is, Julie? But, we both have leveraged this live video, and we said, how can we get to more people? And we said, as speakers and presenters, we can use this to kind of share our story. Just like Donna said earlier, we bring our audience, whoever that may be, Julie said, people who resonate with your story, on a journey. And at the end of the day, hopefully they use this, your live broadcast or live content, as a way, for me, I teach this, to pre-qualify if, is Zeph's 200 miles per hour the kind of energy I can hold on to? Or is Julie's authenticity, and I love that Julie's cursing. Yeah, I'm that kind of gal, It does not matter. The point is, Julie, right? We share our story and be authentic in this live broadcast because, before we go, I wanted to just address something really short because we talk about this. What if we share too much? What if we come off as, seeming unprofessional just because we're sharing our experience and insight? I want to take a few minutes here to talk. And if you folks out there watching this on the live broadcast, drop in your comments because we would love to hear what you think about, are we oversharing? What is oversharing? Why do we seem unprofessional because we're just sharing our insights and experiences? Because everybody has something to say, but does that mean it seems unprofessional just because we're sharing? So drop in your comments right now because I would love to read those comments, put it up on the broadcast while Julie answers this question.
So I think
Julie goes like, Zeph just went on a wild 200 miles per hour ride.
in any profession, as a speaker, as a salesperson, as a consultant, as any profession, a chef, etc., there are some pretty basic unprofessional behaviors. Really being drunk would be one of them. You wouldn't want to show up online and do a live video without intention, and without your faculties about you. I think when you're sharing yourself so much online, it goes back to that first rule. share about yourself and no one else. You know, I'm divorced. I've dated. I have a boyfriend, whatever. I have people in my life, a mother, sister, all these things. Sometimes they really, really irritate me. Like, again, I can't say anything. So, but you'll never see me go live with like a tirade of emotion or anger or something towards someone else, because that's not helpful to anyone. And if my true calling, and I really believe this, is to help others and inspire them, then what I can do is say, hey guys, last week I had a situation with my ex and it drove me to like off a bridge. It drove me crazy. And then all I can talk about from that point forward is how I reacted, how I moved through it, how I helped myself. Nobody needs to know what the situation was. Nobody needs to know his name. It's not a question of who was right or who was wrong. It's, so, you know, I went for a walk and then I kept walking. I walked for quite a while to the point where I needed to get picked up because I was really far from home. And I was still upset, you know, and it's like, that's my point of view and it's my story, and you can still share personal things. I really believe they will still seem professional and useful if you remember to only speak about yourself and how you moved yourself through something, because otherwise you're whining, you're gossiping, you're slandering, and you're not helping.
I agree.
So that's, to me,
keep the story in your lane.
Yeah, keep the story in your lane, exactly. And then you can always share without oversharing or without throwing somebody under a bus or whatever. Because that person on the other side probably isn't happy with you either. But they just might not go live about it. So it's not fair even to go down that road. So keep it in your lane. I like that. Keep your emotions and keep your story in your own lane. And I think that will keep you from over sharing.
I want to also add something to that, just because it's from my own personal experience. Of course, Zev goes on a live broadcast and goes, I had a bad day. Who doesn't? Who cares? And then I have 10 messages later and go like, we got your back, girl. Of course, that's what we want, right? So I want to share a little bit about that, staying in the lane. I agree. And sometimes it's always going to be blurred and there's going to be a gray line. Doesn't matter, right? Even though we stay in our lane, people will always think what they want to think. But you know what? It's okay. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter to you if you're keeping authenticity and being original and being real to who you really are. Keep it in your lane. Don't talk about the people. You can just share about your experience. One experience I did last year was I was going through this challenge, and when I took it to the camera, some people didn't like it. I get it, but it was my story because there was a lesson to learn from this. And I figured as, business owners, my viewers, my audience, and I didn't do a broadcast on my page. I did it on my personal profile. So that's the other thing that you will learn, the difference between going on your business page and your personal profile. Did not name names, didn't talk about the people. I just talk about like, hey, I kind of messed up. I said, I didn't set my boundaries when going into a project. And I know what my boundaries were, but because I was like, knee deep into it and I didn't want to just like pull out because it could just probably cause a heart attack. And I just shared the story. People still saw that. People still perceived it as telling on other people. So that's where I think, when we talk about staying in our lane, it's okay as long as you don't respect other people, don't talk back at other people. Tell your story why, and you have to share with people why you're sharing the story. Don't focus on the bad. Focus on how you're responding to it, what you took away, the experience that you learned from that trauma, from that challenge, from that mess up. If, like Gary said, okay, I'm gonna do this, and Julie's gonna go like, if you fucked up, it's okay.
Doesn't it feel good?
Yeah, like Gary Vee says, it's okay, man. I mean, you did it. You tried it. It's okay. But, you got to stay true to yourself because, you know what? If we tell a story, Julie will probably add to this. When you tell a story, and people know already who you are, and you started to change the ethos of the story just because you think, oh my God, It's not, it's so bad that I'm a little bit embarrassed, and you start changing. People can pick it out like a sore thumb, because they go like, oh, she's telling a lie, or she's creating a story. I promise you, this is why I feel live broadcast, when you get into it, sharing your story, part of the live broadcast is sharing your story, why people want to connect with you. Because online, it's so hard to get to know somebody. And Julie does it so well. And she got in the car, she goes like, when she started this, she even tagged me like, Zab, I'm going live. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going live. And then she's going live.
In the class on May 11th, for example.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, so a couple years ago, I met somebody actually met a lead singer of a band randomly.
Yeah.
And, he actually is also an English teacher. And so through Facebook, we would talk a little bit, whatever. And somehow I ended up about 2 or 3 years ago guest teaching these 3 English classes at a high school in Hartford, Connecticut. And I was teaching about pride. And that comes to mind when we talk about this, when we talk about authenticity and going live and brand for speakers and everything. What I did with this class was, here's these kids, admittedly inner city kids. A lot of them actually never leave Hartford. And they were sophomore, junior, and senior class, I think. And what I did with them was talk to them about the importance of feeling pride. And now some people, one boy said, pride is a sin. You shouldn't feel proud and everything. And I said, you know what? Let's talk about the last time you felt pride. And we went around the room. And so for some of them, it was hard. But I remember one boy in particular, well, actually 2 in particular. One boy had just won some like video gaming thing. Like, I don't know anything about it. It was like a Mortal Kombat, kill everybody game, whatever. But you had to play against people like all over the world. It was like a big deal. And his teacher said to me before, he said, that kid just got diagnosed late, like with autism. Or no, I'm sorry, with ADD. And I said, well, it doesn't make any sense. He's telling me about this video game, and I had given them all a Lego. Whenever they found something that made them feel proud, they got a Lego, and then they could build with their Legos. So he's telling me about how he felt pride in the video game, and then we sat there together as a class and dissected why he was proud. He was proud because he committed to playing for like 15 hours straight. That's a huge attention span for a kid supposedly with ADD, by the way.
Wow.
He was proud because he was able to build a team of people around the world and be the team leader and get them to function in a way that they beat the other team strategically, because it's like an army game.
Yeah.
He was proud because on the side, when people were thinking about dropping out or whatever they were going to do, he talked them into staying. All these things. And so then I said to him, I said, you have all the natural skills of a leader. Imagine yourself as a project manager. These kids had never even heard of a project manager. Yeah. You can encourage people. You're naturally inspiring them. You can stay into something for the long haul. You know how many people would have quit? And we go through all of that. Another boy loves to beat the other basketball team in the neighborhood, but by like a huge margin. And his whole thing was, even though we won, I want to keep winning. I want to keep trying. I want to try new things. That same thing, teamwork. So when I think about telling your story and I think about speakers and presenters, it's like, what makes you feel proud? When was the last time you, no matter how small or mundane it might have been, think about that prideful feeling and then dissect it. What were the skills you brought? What was lacking in that experience that you stepped up and delivered, and how that affected everyone else? And share that story in support of whatever your speaker topic is. And those kids, some of them were proud of good grades. Some were proud when they helped their mom. Some were proud they got picked for a school play. All these different things. And it's like, well, what skills did you need to accomplish that prideful moment? And how can you translate that into a career, was the point of being there. I think the same is true for storytelling, for going live, for speakers and presenters. Think about, in sales, what makes me feel proud? When my clients are just like over the moon giving me a hug, and it's somebody who kind of had a rough path to get to me. They either lost a spouse, they went through a divorce, they're having that life-changing move down south, which is really exciting, and now it happens and they're terrified, and they need that last, safe place person to say it's okay to cry in your house that you've had for 30 years and say goodbye to it. It's not funny. It's not, anything to be embarrassed about, and then send them off on their way. Those are the people that, that makes me feel proud of my business.
Yep.
I now attract those people who just need like a little bit more, and I give them that, and it puts meaning in my own business.
Agree.
So
let me read you a couple of things that everybody is saying right here. And I'm just going to put up a sign where everybody can just go to the website. If you're local to us, you can start going ahead and, get your seats. But that's the information for May 11. And I'm just going to read and put up on the screen a few of the comments here. Terry Johnson saying, love that you could take the time to work with the kids in that class. I love that you said that, Terry. Thank you. And she says, sometimes adults forget that breaking things down into simple parts can help kids so much.
Absolutely.
I agree. That is in agreement. And then I think Terry, let me just read up. Wow, I got to scroll up. We have a lot of comments here. So I'm going to start with Terry. Initially saying, Zev, you are live and large on my TV. Had to switch from my PC so I could comment. The one drawback to watching on TV. Live large. That's what we do. That so resonates with who I am. Donna French is saying, thank you so much. Really appreciate your insights. You ladies rock. Speak from the heart. Boom. Speak from the heart. I love that you mentioned that, Donna, is exactly what it is. And Tish says, faculties about you. Wow, that's a good hashtag. And Cindy here is saying, I think you have to assess your audience to determine how much sharing they will be comfortable with. I also think that the share should be tie-in in the talk, with the talk, and hence the presentation. Exactly what you said earlier, Julie. Support your story if you, and your topic. Use the story to support your topic of your presentation if you speaker or presenter. Love that. And Terry Johnson also still says, this is part of knowing your audience. You will know how much to share. And Barb Tomlin is saying, oversharing is an individual call, easy to lose an audience quickly with irresponsible behavior and using slang or off-color language. This is true with the language and irresponsible behavior, and I feel sometimes people don't understand going live, like we talked about earlier, Julie, stay in your lane, right? Sometimes irresponsible behavior because they're in that moment, they just I just want to go for it, know. But there are things that might happen. If you're okay with it, that's fine. It's your branding, that's fine. But know that certain behaviors and, like you said, Barb, of color language, not everybody will show up for you again after that. Then let me see, let's say Terry just says, but we love you being you, Zev. Those who don't like you present on live will not show up again. Exactly. And that's the truth. All right, folks, we're just going to kind of wrap up because I think there's a lot of information that we shared here today, and we would love for you, even though you're not here in Connecticut with us, watch our broadcast in the past and you will see some of the tips that we've shared, because in the future, Julie and I will be doing more of the live broadcast online because we know this is how we can get to you, our audience. Last thing before we go, Julie, you want to share with our audience?
Just remember that your story is yours, and if some of your audience members drop out, more will find you. So still be true, still be authentic, use the terms and the words and the sign language that makes you you, and know that you're going to receive more than you may potentially lose always.
I agree. And Cindy says, thank you for sharing. Great talk. Barb says, excellent content, girls. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. And we'll see you next week in our next live broadcast, Tuesday at 10 a.m. New York. And we'll see you next time. Bye.